Dear beautiful people, today I want to talk to you about the very important difference between discernment and judgment. You see, when you get curious about the spiritual process, you get curious about the spiritual process because you're ready. You are ready to wake up. But while we are timeless beings, and timeless beings do not require time to know themselves, there is this little bit of a paradox that while you still experience space-time and a physical body, that you need a learning process, or let's better call it an unlearning process. In essence, this is what Buddhism is. Buddhism is an unlearning from the conditioning that you confuse for yourself. So then we're in a process of unlearning. Now during this process, we often experience confusion. There is ambivalence. There might be inner conflict or tendencies to go into one direction or another, and confusion, what is true and what is illusion. This is complex. Karma is complex. A wise friend of mine said that we climb up the mountain the same way we fell down. That means the way we lost ourselves in matter, the way we started identifying with this experience, created attachment. And this attachment, though ultimately, fundamentally, the human experience is universal, there are these tiny individual ways of how you're stuck. A certain sense of specialness that needs to be surrendered. Because something special cannot realize something universal. You cannot realize yourself as Buddha nature or Christ consciousness, which is the same thing, without surrendering what you believe that makes you special. Some people of us feel special through the story of mental illness, as I described in the last video. Some of us feel special for different reasons, for achievements, attainments, whatever. Nothing in this world we can keep, so any type of identity that we create from a temporary experience is illusion. But now we are in those situations where we need to make decisions. And they are very important decisions to make. For many who start waking up, they realize often that they don't want to do the jobs that they are currently doing. So suddenly the question of survival arises as the first hurdle. Do I choose survival of the limited self that is trapped in time? Or do I choose spiritual awakening and act from there? So then people ask themselves, how can I live consciously in an unconscious society and actually make a living? So a lot of times we feel temptations and inner conflicts, and we feel the temptation to go back into old patterns because the new appears so scary from our limited perspective. So then often we are confused about our choices. So I spoke about the first hurdle being survival, but often the second hurdle is the relationships that we have been living to this point. During this process of realization, we also realize that many of our relationships have been of an unconscious nature. That many of those beings that we have relationships with are in a deep unconscious state, and therefore those relationships are difficult and painful. But there is a fear of rejection. And since we're still attached to the role that we have been playing, then let's say embracing the new and being open for a different type of relationship is, from the limited perspective, from the limited self, at first is unknown. Since we do not know what comes next, and now we face the mystery or the unknown, there is a tendency to cling to fear and to fall back into the pattern of the roles that we've been playing before. Now then, during this process of letting go of those worldly attachments, there's a lot of confusion. And ambivalence, in a sense that you will feel that your limited self wants to push into one direction and your not limited self wants to push into another, but you cannot discern which is which. In order to discern which is which, this is what we can do at the point where we reach a no-mind state and we can maintain it. That means the little self, the little you is not present. Only the universal you expresses itself, and through that you have clarity. But before we reach that stage, we still are often in the situation where we need to make decisions. So therefore, even though thought, in that sense, this way of thinking that you have been learning in modern society is not the answer, I will introduce to you a new way of thinking. So in order to discern, am I acting from the little me, the illusionary me, or am I acting because I am intuitively knowing something, or I am inspired, look at your thoughts in the following way. Ask yourself the question, are my thoughts fear-based? Are they arguing from survival? Are they resisting new experiences? Do they want to avoid certain situations? Do they want to stay limited? Are they defending a self-concept or any idea of yourself? Or are they of a different quality? Do they lead to the expansion of your consciousness? Do they lead to an expansion of empathy, of compassion, of creativity, of inspiration? Are they leading to a transformation of relationship? Or are they arguing for you being stuck in relationship that you truly don't enjoy? So you see, one perspective is the one that goes towards limitation or contraption. And one perspective is the one that is always evolving, that goes into integration, into expansion. And the more we expand, the more of our experience we can integrate. Simply spoken, are your thoughts arguing from fear or are they arguing from love? Love is not something special. Love is not something that is limited to romantic relationships. The more we wake up, the more expansive our love becomes. The more inclusive our love becomes. And the more we want to be of service to humanity, but at the same time not sacrificing our authentic self, because only while being our authentic self we can actually be truly of service to humanity. So watch those thoughts that argue from fear. This is your limited self. Now this can be tremendously helpful, because your limited self will try to argue that you avoid certain experiences. It will say, don't go there. You might first think, well, I could find a teacher there, or I could express myself with art, or with writing, or video making, or whatever it is, and you have a passion, and suddenly this passion sparks something in you, and you feel inspired. And now the ego mind enters and says, but your family will reject you, you can't make money with that, and so on. So when you think, I could do this, and then comes, but if you do this, so and so and so and so will happen. Every time the but enters, it is the ego arguing from fear. You can use it as a form of compass. Every time you want to do something and suddenly fear arises, it tells you to exactly do that. If you practice this thoroughly, if you do what you're afraid of, the ego will get rid of itself. Because every time it tells you not to go somewhere, it means you need to go there. Because there's a potential experience that could expand your awareness. And even if you do something where you realize, this is not what I want to do, it gives clarity. The only decision that for you is often harmful is not to decide. That's why the ego loves a state of indecision, of indecisiveness, of ambivalence, of being stuck, because it's such a great chance for it to generate more identity, to make yourself a victim of the situation, you see. Against impossible odds, you're stuck. That's what it tells you. When in truth, you could just make a decision. And through the direct experience, if you're open to it, expansion would arise. Now, there's another area of discernment that is of importance. Not only with regards to your own thoughts and images and emotions that arise within yourself, but also with regards to other people. First of all, realize there are no other people. All of them are you. They are all a fragment of you. You're currently under the illusion that they have a separate experience from you. That is not true. On the deepest level of who we are all connected. So then, your ego gains identity for making itself right and making others wrong. Well, we might have preference. Let's say there's a certain music you like. It's perfectly fine. But it doesn't make the music that someone else likes wrong. You see, if you have ideas of inferiority and superiority, this is ego. When we can allow preferences of the so-called others, then we are discerning, but we're not judging. We can discern, for example, this is what I enjoy, this is what I'm authentic with. And that is fine. But it doesn't make me right, and it doesn't make someone else wrong. I can say, for example, there are certain beings that I currently don't want to have a personal relationship with. Because they might be trapped in a deep unconscious state and create a lot of suffering for themselves and for others. And this is not what I enjoy. That doesn't make me superior, and it doesn't make them inferior. Because we are timeless beings. And as timeless beings, the illusion of time and how our appearance is here, as long as we're trapped in an illusion, and how we express ourselves as long as we're trapped in illusion, is not who we are. So it's important that you do not confuse your brothers and sisters for their appearances. And appearances also includes behavior. This is where they are right now, based on how attached to illusion they are. But since we're timeless, there's no one superior, there is no one inferior, it doesn't exist. It's an ego idea. So while you can discern for yourself what your preference is and what you enjoy, it doesn't make someone else wrong. Contemplate about that. Be well.